Welcome everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Hopefully you've all had an opportunity to log on and to join us. My name is Suzanne Akhra Sahlul. I want to start by saying Assalamu alaikum to all of you. I am a CIOGC board member and I recently joined in January of 2021. And so I'm very happy to be here to welcome all of you to this webinar. And on behalf of the board members, the staff, everyone, all of the volunteers and all the speakers, I welcome you to this webinar, this third webinar actually in the series for female leadership in our community. This is such an important topic. And of course, this is not something that we will only be discussing or talking about or highlighting in the month of March, but throughout the years, how amazing our Muslim sisters are, whether they're leading nonprofits or for-profit institutions, as CEOs, as directors, as development staff, or as case managers, as or any type of employment that we hold. We're proud to be representing our community everywhere we go. Alhamdulillah. And I'm very proud to be here representing all of you. As I mentioned, I'm a board member with CIOGC, but in my day job, I am the founder and executive director of the Syrian Community Network. We're a refugee support organization based in the north side of Chicago, but serving the Chicagoland area. We work mainly with Syrian refugees, but we welcome everyone to our office, of course, and to our virtual services right now. And I'm really honored to be able to host this webinar in this series, this third webinar. And I want to thank some of the people who really go unnoticed within planning these series. First of all, I want to give a shout out to all of the CIOGC staff who help make these events possible. Without them, without the beautiful graphics, all of the Instagram posts and the social media posts that happen behind the scenes, this couldn't be made possible. So I want to just give a highlight to all of the staff, whether it's Sana, whether it's Iqra, whether it's Brother Abdullah Mitchell, whether it's Brother Maqsood, or and anyone. I apologize if I missed anyone. All of them go above and beyond to serve the community and do their jobs very, very well. So thank you. And I want to highlight Sister Sahira Parveen, who has been at the forefront of planning these webinars. And really, she's one of the silent soldiers who does all of the work behind the scenes. So thank you, Sister Sahira, for always being there and to, pulling everybody together within the CIOGC community. And I also want to thank Sister Sabina Khadir and Brother Charles Muhammad, who have been leading the DEI initiative, which is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion task force within the CIOGC, how to make our organizations and institutions more equitable, more inclusive of everyone within our community. The Muslim community is one of the most diverse communities I believe in the United States, and we have to show for that, and we have to be at the table in every organization and every initiative that is happening within the community. I don't want to take too long, and I want to introduce our moderator, our guest host, who will be introducing all the speakers to you. Sister Tabassum Halim. Sister Tabassum Halim is no stranger to the community. We all know her. She's been at the forefront of so many initiatives. So Sister Tabassum is the CEO of the Islamic Networks Group, ING, which is a nonprofit organization with affiliates around the country, whose mission is to promote peace by fostering a deeper understanding of Muslims and other faith-based racial, ethnic, cultural communities. And she holds a BS in accounting from the University of Illinois, Master of Public Policy, and Master of Arts from the University of Chicago, and is a licensed certified public accountant, CPA. She's part of the Chartered Global Movement Accountant. Tabassum serves on the U.S. Commission of Civil Rights and board of LGC's Leadership Fellows Association. She's a recipient of multiple awards. She is the co-chair for DuPage United, a community organization group, and on the advisory committee for Naperville Chamber of Commerce for Green Leadership Council. Not sure where she has the time to do all of this. She is, as I mentioned, no stranger to all of us, and she's been, really someone who is an inspirational leader to many of us. I remember when I was part of the Islamic Speakers Bureau here in Chicago, and how I just remember how her steady leadership and how inspiring she was to all of us. So without further ado, I will pass the baton to Sister Tabassum.
Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. Thank you so much for that very kind introduction, Suzanne. It's so lovely to see you. And thank you to all the panelists and attendees for being with us on this bright, sunny Sunday afternoon. Happy spring to everyone. As we all know, working in the nonprofit world requires passion, perseverance, and a unique perspective. Today's six panelists are all amazing women who have been making tremendous strides on behalf of our community and for our community. Although we may be familiar with these Muslim leaders and their work, we're here today to learn more and hopefully gain an even better insight into who they are and what they do. We will certainly be inspired of this, I am sure. So let's begin. I would like to briefly introduce each panelist and invite them to share their journey in the non-for-profit world. First is Alma Campos, founding member of Ojala Foundation. Alma currently works for a well-established Islamic school and is pursuing a master's degree in educational business administration. She has served as a host to Radio Islam, where she was able to represent and give voice to the Latino Muslim perspective. Mrs. Campos has been involved in supporting the growing number of Latinos entering the Muslim faith for close to 2 decades. She has been part of the grassroots efforts taking place in Chicago to unite, support, and represent the growing Latino Muslim community through its various phases. She is a founding member of Ojala Foundation, Latino Muslims of Chicago, where she serves as a board member. This is a non-for-profit organization dedicated to building bridges between Islam, Muslims, and the Latino communities. Alma, please go ahead and briefly share your journey with us.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having us. It's great to be part of this amazing panel, this lineup, mashallah. So for us as Ohala Foundation, Latino Muslims of Chicago, and just to clarify, it's Ohala Foundation. I know there's a way of reading it in English that is a little bit different, but it's pronounced Ohala. So we started as Latino Muslims of Chicago, I would say. And before that, we have to give credit to people that were already doing this work much before we ever became officially known as Latino Muslims of Chicago. There was people who were already paving the way to the efforts that we are still working towards today. So Latino Muslims of Chicago started a couple years ago, I want to say maybe 15 or so years ago, where we came together and decided it was time to give ourselves a name and try to be known within the Muslim community here in Chicago, because we were having a lot of struggles in being recognized, right? We were a minority community, we're a small community, we're a growing community, and it was hard for us to find the support and resources that we needed. So at that time, we knew it was important for us to establish ourselves as a non-for-profit. We were trying to accomplish this because we wanted to gain credibility and some sort of weight, to our organization, that it wasn't just a small group of individuals, like our numbers are growing to where we're able to organize. Unfortunately, for many years, we just had the struggles that many non-for-profits have, limited resources, financial resources, human resources. But for us, we were also facing a lot of setbacks because the overall Muslim community, whether it's a masjid or Islamic organizations, we're still not seeing what we were seeing. We're not understanding the needs that we had, right? So that was externally. We were having to struggle with all of that to find a place for ourselves. And internally, we had a different struggle, which was that all of our members, or the majority of them, were new converts to the faith. So as much as they wanted to be a support system and do all of this great work, a lot of them were still in need of having support themselves, if that makes any sense. So, life happens as well, and people had to move out of the state, out of the country, whatever it is, have children, get married. And it was just an ongoing thing where we would just find ourselves with people leaving, people entering. And, we continued doing what we could do for many, many years. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago where there was another group who was also looking to focus their efforts in the same community as us. And we kind of came together. And I remember just seeing everybody that was around me and understanding how important having a strong foundation and support is, right? So I was seeing these people and I recognized them as being active. They've been involved with the community. They've been doing this work for many years. I knew this was a group of people I could count on, and that we would kind of like stick together. So that's when we officially were registered as Ojalá Foundation, Latino Muslims of Chicago. And as this organization, we do a lot of the things that we had done for so many years in the past as Latino Muslims of Chicago, or what we were before that. But now we try to do a lot more, obviously, and incorporate new things. So some of the things that we do is dawah efforts, of course, and convert support. We try to have Eid celebrations where our community can participate. Usually our community is celebrating Ramadan and Eid by themselves. So we try to offer them the space, which is also a safe space for them to bring their family members, and Muslim, non-Muslim, whoever might want to join is welcome, of course. We also try to give a platform to upcoming Latino Muslim scholars and students of knowledge, which were non-existent, or I couldn't find them at least when I first came to Islam. So we're still in that phase where we're trying to grow as a community and trying to find our place and kind of make a statement of like, we're here, we're part of this ummah, we're not going anywhere, let's work together, right? So we try to highlight or give space to our Muslim Latino scholars. Additionally, we do participate if we're ever invited to universities or speaking engagements. We do try to take part in those. Sometimes they want to learn about Islam in Latin America, our history in Latin America. Sometimes it's they want to know about our individual journeys. So we do take care of that. Another area which is interesting is the media, the Latino media. We found that Latino media is a lot friendlier to Islam and Muslims than the American media. So we try to be a resource for them as well, to where we just realize the value in having somebody talk about an issue as a Muslim that happens to be Latino and is able to communicate in the Spanish language to this community. So we do a lot of that. Right now with the pandemic, obviously we're a little bit limited. So we do try to still maintain a lot of the things that we have been doing in terms of dawah and support and whatnot. And two of the things that we are really focusing on right now has been our Neighborly Deeds project, because we do try to do like community service and stuff. So Neighborly Deeds has been an ongoing project that happens every Friday. Our community goes out and feeds the homeless, handing out food and essential items to the homeless. And one thing that has been incorporated into that is building leadership skills in our youth. We've noticed that for some reason, youth kind of get us, you know, they find like we're relatable to them. So we give them the opportunity to organize if they wanted to do a drive, if they wanted to put together the items to distribute, if they wanted to get volunteers or whatnot. And yeah, so I mean, there's so much more that we do, but this is what I could think of right now. And to cut it short, in a nutshell, those are some of the highlights.
Thank you so much, Alma. And you know, I just realized after 7 years of taking Spanish in school, I made a rookie mistake of mispronouncing the foundation name. I should have known. I should have. I looked at that again and I said, how could it?
No,
Absolutely.
completely
Ojalá
okay. We
Foundation.
get that all the time. And that was actually one of the things when we were deciding on whether or not to keep or to even be called Ojalá Foundation. It was like, nobody can pronounce this. Like
No,
they're going to read it differently. It's read differently in English, but we stuck
no,
to
it's
it at the end.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It for what it stands for, and it reminded me of my wonderful years of Spanish in school. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Our next guest, our next panelist is Arshia Wajid. Arshia Wajid is the founder of American Muslim Health Professionals, or AMHP for short, a national non-for-profit organization established in 2004 and dedicated to empowering health professionals seeking to advance public health, social justice, and civic engagement within their communities. AMPH's core areas of focus are professional development, mental health, and advocacy for underserved communities. She derives her inspiration for her activism from her faith, which places huge importance on serving humanity. Arshia received a bachelor's degree in history and a master's degree in business administration and public health from the University of Illinois, and completed a fellowship in hospital administration at Stony Brook University Hospital in New York. She currently works as the healthcare executive at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, where she is spearheading the optimization of front-end operations for 170 employees across nearly 100 outpatient clinics. Arshia is a recipient of the 2018 Muslim Women's Alliance Inspiring Women Award, and has been featured in the Chicago Sun-Times, CBS Chicago News, and the US Department of State's Share America platform. Arshia, welcome. And please tell us some more insights into your organization, but more than that, your journey.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank CRGC for providing this opportunity. And it's really an honor to be in the company of so many esteemed women today. In terms of how or why I started AMP, American Muslim Health Professionals, we probably would have to go a little backwards in terms of my journey in healthcare. And I usually say that, like most South Asian kids, I was born into pre-med. I was exposed to the field of medicine when I was really young. I used to visit my grandfather's clinic, which was located in a town outside of Hyderabad in India. And I recall patients sitting outside of his clinic to see him. At that time, I was too young to know exactly what he did, but I just knew at a high level that he made people feel better. And so that had a lasting impression on me. Also, when I was young and we relocated to Kuwait, I used to actually enjoy going to the hospital with my father. He was a physician there. And most kids at that age, when they're 7, 8 years old, they would hate going to hospitals, but I just enjoyed it. And so I was kind of in that mindset of, when I grow up, I wanted to become a physician too, just like my father and grandfather. When I was in college, I did pursue pre-med. However, in my junior year, I decided that I didn't want to become a physician anymore, but I wanted to stay in the healthcare field. So I got my master's in public health and MBA, and I've been basically working in the hospital setting for most of my professional career. And this kind of leads into why I started AMHP, and that's because after I got done with graduate school, I realized that there were a number of individuals who were working in the healthcare sector who weren't physicians, but they were doing incredible things. And there really was no national association or organization that kind of brought together this talent. There were healthcare executives, healthcare entrepreneurs, IT healthcare professionals, nurses, pharmacists, dentists. And so the idea behind AMHP was really to bring together, create a platform so these individuals can get connected for professional development reasons. But the larger goal was that how do we get connected and work on public health initiatives for society at large? And so our core areas of focus, as mentioned before, is professional development, mental health, and advocacy for underserved communities. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Arshia, for that wonderful, long history of being in the medical family. And you just expanded, it seems like you just expanded that vision of what it means to serve from a medical standpoint, serve the community. Our next panelist is Donna Dimir. Donna was raised in a Baptist Christian family, having a deep understanding and curious mind, she accepted Islam at the tender age of 23. She is a graduate of University of Southern California, USC, with a degree in music and performing arts. Donna then moved to Switzerland, where she married and began raising a family. She would earn a second degree in nursing, specializing in labor and delivery neonatal care. In 2001, Donna and her husband founded Zakat Foundation of America, a renowned charity organization that operates in 43 countries. There she serves as a medical consultant and health advisor. Being an avid traveler at heart, she has since worked at maternal clinics in Southeast Asia, helped war victims in East Africa, and offered medical care in war-torn North Africa. In her spare time, Donna sings and writes poetry, and writes about issues affecting Black Muslim women, and confronts issues of racism in the Muslim community. Donna lives with her Turkish husband, 4 daughters, 3 rescued parrots, and 2 cats in the southwest suburb of Chicago. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you guys so much. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me. And I am just so happy to be here with such a wonderful group of women. And I'm just so excited about this new series that you guys are doing at CIOGC. I think it's just absolutely pertinent and right on point. I kind of have to laugh though, Tasneem, when I hear you read all of that. So since then the girls have moved on, but alhamdulillah. Us at Zakat Foundation, as you can see, it's been a pretty interesting journey, and those of you who have been around, since 2001, for us, we actually started, and I always have to say this, just to kind of put it back in, in the front of our minds to return that. We started 2 months before September 11th. Everybody knows what that means. You guys know what that means. People who are listening, you know what that means. It was probably the most difficult time to start up a humanitarian disaster organization. And we were blessed. We were able to still be here and still able to move forward. Our story in some ways is not very much unlike some of the other stories that we're hearing. We discovered a niche, we discovered a need, and so we set out by the grace of God to fulfill that need. Up until we started, actually, there was no organized methodology in place for working with Zakat. And when we moved back to the United States from Switzerland, my husband and I, we sat and we looked around and we realized there was nothing really, there was no system at all. Mostly people were taking their Zakat, they were sending it home, or they were trying to find someone to give it to. Oftentimes people might give it to the mosque, or they might, and that's still a viable option. But you have to kind of understand in the early 2000s, there was no systematic way of utilizing Zakat in the way that we all know is how it works best. So we saw the niche and kind of figured it out, and things slowly moved forward in a way where up until today, we're in 43 countries. Doing all kinds of programs. There's seasonal programs. I would just say everyone, you kind of have to go to the site, because I couldn't really, in all justice, go through what happens in all of those countries, including South America, Southeast Asia, China, Africa, Europe, here in the US. Every single disaster that has occurred, whether it's refugees fleeing, whether it's orphans, whether it's food programs, whether it's gang-related issues here in Chicago, anything that involves equity and social justice, we've kind of been either on the forefront or we're in the background. And I would say everybody here on the panel and everyone who is listening, we're all very familiar with how many natural disasters we've had. Starting, I mean, they've always been forever, but it seems like they were really on a roll in the 2000s and thereafter, whether we were talking about tsunamis, hurricanes, Hurricane Katrina, refugees fleeing, the crisis of the homeless, all of those things. So we found a niche and we kind of fit in there, and that's kind of what we do. But me, myself personally, being a health advisor, I fall more into the category of global health, and health globally is a disaster, even prior to what we're in right now, being this pandemic. A lot of interest, and there's a lot of focus on women's health and children. So I kind of fall in a lot of little niches in between here and there. Not to be too vague, but not to go on and on, but that's kind of what we do. So I encourage everyone to go to the website, and if there's any way you think that we could ever be more useful or offer some type of aid, give us a shout out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna. You bring up a very good point that the Muslim community, with our tradition of zakat, is so generous. And it's not so much how much we give, but how effective and organized we were in our giving. So Zakat Foundation definitely brings a lot of value in that space. So thank you for that.
Can I just say?
Yes,
can I just say one thing, just very briefly? It is very important to note that when you say our tradition of zakat, all of us know doing nonprofit work, one of the largest obstacles that you have to overcome is a stable donor base. That's really pretty much it. So yeah, I just had to agree with you on that. You hit it right on the head. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our next panelist is Itadel Chellaby. She is the co-founder and executive director of Arab American Family Services. After graduating with her bachelor's and master's from the social work program at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and witnessing the significant need for a social services agency to advocate for and address the issues and concerns of the Arab and Arab American community in South and Southwest Chicago, Ms. Chellaby established the Arab American Family Services in 2001. Under her leadership and expertise, the agency went from count two, to 35 staff, along with 2 fellows and 4 mental health interns. In collaboration with the co-founder, Ms. Taha, the staff and other organizations, the organization went from 1 program to over 13 different programs, uniquely designed to help the Arab community. Itadel is also an adjunct professor at Dominican University in the social work department. Through policy and action-oriented work, Itadel currently sits on several boards and committees for different organizations, coalitions, and initiatives in Chicagoland as part of a strategic effort to build bridges of communication and resources between Arab, Muslim, and mainstream organizations, institutions, and government agencies. Appointed to the Governor's Advisory Council on Domestic Violence, the Advisory Committee of the Cook County Department of Public Health, as well as the Illinois Muslim Advisory Board. Further, to build national networks with other Arab and Arab American organizations, Itadel serves as an advisory board member to the National Network for Arab American communities. Itadel is also a recognized speaker locally, nationally, and internationally on issues of domestic violence, sexual assault, as well as gender-based issues. She's working through the AAFS has directly involved policy relevant activities and through different strategies. It's ensured that Arabs and Arab Americans are becoming visible, at least in the state of Illinois, spearheading and passing legislation that would ensure the safety and protection of the Muslim community in our state. Itadel is currently working to develop long-term relationships with researchers at various universities and together can address the needs and concerns of the Arab community using community engaged research that would further our policy-related goals. Itadel is a proud mother of 3 wonderful young men. So happy to see you in this space, Itadel. Please share your journey with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tabassum and CIRGC and everyone else for reaching out. I truly appreciate and appreciate being amongst such outstanding women. You know, I have to say it, who rules the world? Women rule the world. So I'm so happy to be here and to be with all of you. A little bit about Arab American Family Services. It was established by myself and my business partner, Nerman Taha, in 2001. And Donna, to your credit, we established it in January, so a little bit like 9 months before 9/11 hit. And I truly know what that means. We are a multi-social service organization, a one-stop shop, and we offer services from domestic violence and sexual assault. We have advocates in the courtrooms. We offer elderly services. We offer the first ever congregate meal where we serve a good meal from the Arab restaurant for our elderly. So, and then to enjoy the social gathering, which then during COVID turned into a drive-by meal where they still came and picked up the meal. We offer mental health services. As Arshia mentioned, we are truly in need of mental health services, and specifically the language is really the issue. We all face the same issues throughout all communities, all educational levels, but it's reaching them in the language that they understand. We have a contract with the Department of Children and Family Services, where we work with the state to ensure that Arab and Muslim children who are pulled out are either reunified with their families or termination of parental rights if the abuse is too significant. We offer civic engagement, and as you mentioned, Tabassum, where we ensure the safety and the connectedness and the voices of our community are heard at the state level, but we also work on the federal level. We have an immigration department where we offer immigration services to our communities. We actually established the first community civic engagement, the first ever census committee that brought over 20 Arab American organizations to ensure that we are counted during the past census, to ensure that the MENA category is established, to ensure in 2030 that we do have a MENA category on the census, because it's important for our political representation, it's important for funding, it's important for so many things that we as an Arab American community be recognized as an entity. We serve over 12,000 families on a yearly basis. 30% are non-Arab, non-Muslim. We have various activities throughout the year. The most important ones which are coming up, every year we adopt over 200 families during the Eid. We ensure that our families have brand new clothes for their children to celebrate, just like all of our children. We ensure that we have a back to school drive where we make sure that our children also go to school prepared and will not be teased with brand new school supplies, thanks to the generous communities. And we also have a lot of field trips for our elderly to ensure that they are engaged and they're out, not getting depression and not being isolated. The journey to get to the place we are has not been easy. Again, we go back to 9/11. We were trying to talk about the issues that face all communities, as I've said, but it was really hard when you're part of the Muslim community. And so it felt like we were torn between our community's needs to have this image of we're great, and we are. Don't get me wrong. There's bad apples in every community, and we shouldn't be ashamed of those. We really needed to tackle the issues of domestic violence, child abuse, sexual abuse within our own community, and make sure that our women receive the help in the community, by the community, and for the community. We have done, we went from a zero budget to close to $3 million budget at this point. And so the work and the need of organizations, and I wish that we could have 10 more social service organizations, right? We really are truly in need of all of us joining forces, ensuring that the needs of the community and our neighbors, we're very proud to say we also have a COVID testing program. So we're actually working to ensure that our community receives COVID testing. And we are working on becoming a vaccination site, specifically also for our elderly community, who will feel more empowered and trusting to come to a community center that will get their shots there in the language that they speak. There is so much to talk about, but I know there's so many more panelists, and I want to make sure we all get heard. But I'm truly thankful and honored to be here, and honored to be with all of you at this today.
Thank you so much, Itadel. I'm sure with the pandemic, it's taking your the importance of your organization to a whole different level, and the relevance of it, the immediate relevance of it. Thank you so much for that. Our next panelist is Juhi Tahir, who is the co-founder and executive director of Mohsin. As a graduate from Boston University with a degree in business management and having spent over 20 years excelling in the corporate world, speaking globally about strategies in the marketing field in the UK, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Malaysia, and Turkey, Juhi turned her talents to become a national advocate for Muslims with disabilities. This led to her involvement in co-founding and appointment as executive director of Muslims Understanding and Helping Special Education Needs, or Mohsin. Mohsin is a revolutionary nonprofit founded by Sheikh Omar Suleiman. In consult with Sheikh Omar, Juhi laid out, planned, and built the organizational programs and services which we now know as Mohsin. With her own family being affected by disability, Juhi has been outspoken over the past 15 years, specifically about the need for inclusion for her daughter, who is on the autism spectrum. She started with small community initiatives, talks, support groups, consulting with masjid administrators and mainstream scholars about the need for our communities to be more aware and be made more accessible for people in our community with disabilities. As a leader of this organization, Juhi advocates and markets the need for which Mohsin implements programs and services across North America, promoting inclusion of all members of the community impacted by special needs through awareness, accommodation, and acceptance. She has been a recipient of the MWA 2015 Inspiring Women's Award and top 7 Muslim women to celebrate in 2017. Welcome, Juhi.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you, everyone, for putting this great program together today. I want to thank the organizers at CIOGC and my fellow co-panelists. And I'm so, inspired by those of you that are on the panel along with me. And I really, truly believe that it's important that we celebrate each other. And I truly am looking forward to the opportunity to speaking with all of you today a little bit about Mohsin. One of the key things that I want to drive home is that this is not a career path that I chose. This is not a career path that necessarily anybody chooses to go into, and it's almost been a labor of love. Some of the things that I went through in the journey of my life is what has brought me to this work today. I went to business school, and I was extremely passionate about the field of marketing, and that's where I spent the large part of my career. I am actually someone who fell into the world of nonprofit kind of accidentally. And never having been exposed to the field of disability, one of the biggest things that I can say is having had a child who was diagnosed at a young age, I realized what was missing in our community. And I think having, had that experience and understanding that we could possibly not be the only family that has those challenges is what led me to believe that more needed to be done. And one of the things that I would say is that um, sometimes we're ignorant about the challenges in the community until we are really faced with them ourselves. And so, very selfishly, I set out to make a better world for my own daughter. And in turn, what I realized is that we need to build this for everyone in the community. And that's really how Mohsin came about. I left the world of nonprofit, of for-profit and corporate world because I knew that anyone could be doing that work, but no one was doing this work. And as so many of us feel in the nonprofit world, especially when advocating for marginalized community members, someone has to speak up. And I often heard when I talked about challenges of isolation about people with special needs, well, sister, you know so much about it, why don't you do it? And and back to someone was saying earlier on the panel, it's oftentimes the people who need support that are being asked to do the work. And we can all throw our hands up in the air and say, well, I don't have the bandwidth for that. I can't do that. I'm the one that needs support. But at some point, I think each of us has had to stand up and say, no, it's important enough work that if we don't do it, maybe it's not getting done. And I remember resigning. I had a position in leadership and marketing, and I remember resigning from that job. And they wanted to know, where are you going? How much money do you want? Stay, don't go. I said, no, it's not that. It's just that nobody else is working in that field, in that area, and my community needs me. And so, alhamdulillah, for that opportunity. And here we are today, 6 years young. Mohsin is a 6-year-old organization, a baby on this panel. But we have a lot to be grateful for. The work that is now, mashallah, starting with the efforts of Mohsin and my amazing team, are bringing people out of the woodworks, families with special needs, individuals, adults, children, that have never had that kind of support. And we have a long way to go. And I know there's a bit of a Q&A later, but just providing inclusion opportunities for people with special needs, from my board all the way to the people we support in 65 masjid communities across the country, where, mashallah, in Canada as well as in the US, we're expanding into other countries now with supports and programs. And I think what has to happen is everyone needs to understand that disability can impact anyone. It's not us and them. I never in a million years thought that I'd be a disability advocate, but this is a minority group. It's a very large minority group that any of us can become a part of at any time. And so if we understand that, we're going to line up to do this work. And alhamdulillah, we see the fruits of the labor. And whether it's support groups, specialized weekend school programs, pair buddy programs, tutoring, explaining to masajid what they need to do to become inclusive, all of this work is important work, and we're providing access to people. That's really what I believe it is. We're just the connectors, and we provide access. And we're so grateful because once you get to know the special needs community, or realize that these are amazing people and their brothers are and our sisters, and we need to be basically reviving the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ and doing this work in becoming a more open community. So I'm really grateful to be on the panel, and I want to thank CIOGC, and really pleased to be in the company of all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Juhi. Your contribution to our community is absolutely immeasurable. The conversation that you have opened up for all of us is in bringing out the families that are affected from out of the shadows and into the light. We're so indebted to you. Thank you so much, Juhi. Our next, last but not least, our panel is on the panel is Dr. Rohani Nayan. She was recently promoted to CEO of the Chicago Muslims Green Team, or CMGT. So first of all, congratulations to Rohani on that well-deserved promotion. Rohani Nayan, PhD, is, like I said, the Chief Executive Officer at the Chicago Muslims Green Team, or CMGT. Her love for education, community work, social and environmental justice leads her to initially led her to initially volunteer at CMGT as the education coordinator, who designed educational programs and provided professional development as needed. Currently, as the CEO, Dr. Nayan is focusing on nurturing and growing the vision of CMGT, especially in raising awareness of and planting the seeds for a mindful, eco-friendly lifestyle based on Islamic guidance in the Muslim community and the community at large. Rohani holds a PhD in curriculum and instruction with a concentration in literary studies from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She also holds a master's degree in language education, or TESL, and a bachelor's degree in English education, ESL, from the Indiana University, Bloomington. Her work focuses on minority and immigrant families and their children's experiences in their adopted country, and how the interwoven issues of culture, language, and meaning-making act upon their identity and literacy development. Her work has appeared in several academic volumes. Dr. Nayan describes herself as an accidental immigrant who came to the US to study, but ended up making it her home. In her free time, she enjoys being a foodie who loves diverse cuisines, reading, making arts and crafts, origami, kirigami, and studying languages. She is passionate about building bridges across communities and enjoys collecting resources, especially on Islam, cultures, literary development, researching cross-cultural awareness, and developing interfaith dialogues. Currently, her immediate goals in life include lessening her carbon footprint on Earth by adjusting and transforming her lifestyle and daily habits into green living. Welcome, Rohani.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Sister Tabassum, and so sorry for the long bio, which really described me. Oh, mashallah. Thank you. On behalf of the Chicago Muslim Green Team, I would like to thank CIODC for inviting us to be in this program, mashallah. And also, I feel so humbled and so honored to be on this panel of inspiring women. And by the way, panelists, you know I'm going to contact you, mashallah, because you are resources for us as a young organization. And Sister Juhi, I'm so sorry. I have to take the title from you because CMGT is the youngest one on this panel right now. We just got our nonprofit organization title last October. So it's not even half a year yet, even though we have been operating for the past 2 years. So Sister Juhi, I'm going to take that from you. However, I'm going to join your club as a newbie in the area. As you have listened for my bio, I am basically an educator with my background in ESL. I moved to Chicago about 3 years ago, and not knowing, my husband is a professor at UIC in the Department of Education and Psychology. So when I moved here, I said, what am I going to do? And I haven't really decided why Allah sent me to Chicago, and keep on questioning why Allah is sending us to Chicago. My husband loves his job. So while deciding what to do, I work as an adjunct assistant professor at UIC, teaching in the Ed Psych department. And that was the year 2017 when I started shopping around at masajid to go to which one is my favorite masajid in Chicago, and also looking at different groups because I have so many interests. And one of my passion is interfaith dialogue. So I was also looking into, do I want to be an educator? Do I want to be a community? And also because of my background as the principal Islamic school, I wanted to also give back to the Muslim community. And so I met these 3 wonderful women at one of the events at Downtown Islamic Center, which is one of my favorite mosques here. And Sister Caroline Williams, Melda Beckal, and Haula Hamad, who are the founders of Chicago Muslim Green Team. And they, while talking, they were just like, Rohan, why don't you join us? You know, we are small. We are just starting this group of Muslims who are encouraging green living, and also join us so that we can work with the other Muslims. And I'm just like, yeah. But at that time, they were not really established. And so I said, okay, so we'll see how it is. And mashallah, their determination, and also when they quote the hadith, the ayah in the Quran, to me, it kind of changed my mind. In Surah Al-An'am, where it says, he is the one who made you Khalifa of the earth. And here at CMGT, this is what they are doing. But what does it mean to be Khalifa, and how do we go about it? So the vision of CMGT is basically to raise awareness. The founders told me that they went to an event at Faith in Place, and mashallah, the work on green living, the green movement is so big, and so many churches, so many synagogues, so many other groups, but very, very few Muslims. And so this is part of why they say we have to increase the presence of Muslim in the Green Team movement, because Islam is so green. And so many hadith that we know, that where the Prophet ﷺ told us to take care of the environment, take care of each other, take care of our body, our family, our community. And so this is the main vision of Green Team, to raise awareness and spread awareness about issues related to environmental justice and also about social justice, especially in leading eco-friendly lifestyle based on Islamic teachings. And so the core values at CMGT, based on the Quran and Hadith, we are the stewards of the earth. And we have to practice moderation, integrity, and sustainability in everything that we do every day. And we do have social responsibility in our organizational practice, and also building bridges, becoming a community with our creations, with the people, with the animals, with our environments, and also taking care of our beloved planet Earth. And so we have, by doing this, we are showing our gratitude to Allah, each other, creation, and the earth. So the three things that CMGT does is, number one, to educate. And so we have our programmings related to raising awareness and spreading awareness. One of our favorite program here is Green Masjid. So when we approach masjid, we talk about making the masjid green, saving water and energy, and what can we do to improve the life of our congregants, and how do we go about it. And number two, we are very active in encouraging and also building a mindful, eco-friendly lifestyle, because everything starts from home. And so we are very, we have our workshops, and our educational program focuses on how do you deal with waste at home? How do you do with waste in your community? How do you do with taking care of the environment? So what are the things changes that you need to do in order to be more mindful about our habits? And the third one is to build bridges. And this is the part that I really fell in love with the CMGT. And so we do a lot of green collaborations that unite communities in problem solving, especially in issues related to environmental and social justice, and also in our pursuit of building a better world. So what are the challenges? So how are we different from other organizations? So basically right now we are joining, I think Muslims are becoming more active now in the green movement. And so we provide, when we are together with our groups here in Chicago, especially the non-Muslim groups, CMGT provides insight about the Islamic perspective on environmentalism. And so we broaden people's understanding about these issues from Islamic point of view. Last week, when I talked with 350 Chicago, I did a presentation, and it was surprising for me. I was supposed to talk for 30 minutes, but it ended up I was talking for an hour and a half throughout the whole meeting because they were so curious about, oh, really? So Muslim do this, why this, and why water? And when I talk about making wudu, how we can save water, the Prophet ﷺ just made wudu with a small bowl of water. And here we are turning on the tap and letting the water run. And so it was really interesting to get the reaction from them. And that was one of the challenges that I'm very happy to overcome on behalf of Cmgt, because when we started, we are very young. We are very small, very young, and we have about a team of 10 dedicated volunteers. And we have other volunteers as well, about 30 to 40 people, but not as committed. So the challenges we face at Cmgt is, of course, because we are small and we don't have that much money, that much funding. However, alhamdulillah, last week we got a scholarship from an organization. So that's one of our challenges, to work more on raising funds and finding grants to support us. But the one that most bother me most is not to be taken seriously. And for me, it was very challenging because as an educator, I always join institutions that are already well established. Indiana University, University of Chicago, and when I worked at MIT for a project. And so it was, when I joined Cmgt, I'm sure the founders were so frustrated with me, but they were so kind. They were very compassionate because I was just like, okay, this is the program I want to do. And so, okay, who's gonna do this? And they're just like, if you don't mind, can you do it first? And can you recruit volunteers for your group? And I'm just like, man, this is hard. And so one of the things, and originally from Malaysia, my mother always told me when I was coming to America, always make sure to make the place better than you found it. And that has always been the motto for my life. And now I pass to my daughters, my son, and also to Cmgt. At Cmgt, this is what we're doing. So, and I'm a firm believer in doing things so that I understand the experience itself. And all the organizations here who have been feeding the homeless, I really tip my hijab to you, because now after joining at Cmgt recently did a project with Penny Appeal and the IC, we joined with Care, who's very active in feeding our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness here. And so I joined them in distributing warm food that day to 400 people. And I had only about 100 packages. It was so hard. And so, mashallah, for all of the nonprofit organizations here, I totally respect what you are doing, and may Allah help us to do this, inshallah. As I said, the biggest challenge, I think, is not to be taken seriously because we are small. And every time we contact people, people were just like, who are you? And why should we work with you? And I always remind people, mashallah, you know, we should have compassion with each other. We should be supporting each other and working together, and building this bridge is important. And we always have to offer, okay, this is what we're bringing to the table. Do you want to work with us or not? And it was really interesting to note that we are welcome in the Muslim circles. We are still unknown. Not that many people know about us, but with non-Muslim community here, they welcome us with open arms, you know, and so quick to provide things and all that. And one of the project that I'm doing this year is called the Plarn Project. And Plarn means plastic yarn. And so to tackle the issue of plastic waste that I see around Chicago, and also now waste in the ocean, and all the problems caused by plastic, I said, hey, what can we do with this? So I decided to get plastic bags and crochet them into a Plarn mat. 6 by 3 foot plant mat that we are going to distribute to our neighbors experiencing homelessness around here. Because it bothers me, I am now on UIC campus, and it breaks my heart when I see our unhoused neighbors walking around. So Alhamdulillah, I started small. I started the project in December. And mashallah, recently, nothing much was happening. I had only like 15 volunteers, 3 crocheters, and I have never even touched a hook in my life before. And now I have crocheted about 7 mats. And so I can share with people what the project is about, what are the pros, cons, and all that. And so one of my volunteers said, Rohani, why don't you sign up on Nextdoor app? And through Nextdoor app, I signed up for 2 more organizations, Chicago Environmentalists and Care for the Homeless. And mashallah, now in my area, I'm known as the bag lady, because people are dropping off their bags and people are joining, and Lincoln Park people now are joining me. So now I have about 40 volunteers working on it, and looking forward. Anybody else who want to join, come join us. So these are some of the, that's why we got excited. And COVID, subhanallah, when I hear the heartbreak news, and even we lost some personal relatives and friends as well, but COVID has been good for CMGT. MashaAllah, COVID has been really good for CMGT, because now we are getting well known in the circle of Chicago NPO, nonprofit organizations. And we are getting so many invitations to do green collaboration that right now we are sad to say, we'll think about it, because we don't have enough manpower to do the work. And so Alhamdulillah, we are doing very well. So those are some of the challenges that we have about us. And to sum it up, mashallah, you know, at CMGT, we are made up of a group of committed, dedicated individuals who are really bold, creative, and strategic. In our meetings, the ideas for programming, the ideas for everything comes really, really easy. And so we have to kind of stop ourselves and think about our capacity. So this year, 2021, we are focusing on strengthening our infrastructure. And it started with my newly elected position as the CEO. And next we are working on adding more men to our board members. And so inshallah, if you are interested, you know anybody, feel free to contact me. And we are also recruiting more volunteers, and also starting our internship program for our youth, because our youth are very, very important in the community. And so we are looking forward to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rohani. It was so important to remind ourselves about a deep tradition in Islam about taking care of Allah's creation. And what has always amazed me is that even during conflict, we are required to follow the rules of engagement and take care of the environment. So it definitely, as Muslims, we should be at the forefront of taking care of our environment. So thank you so much for that. I think we are, we're going to take some quick, we're gonna like do a rapid fire questions. I do wanna get to some of the things in particular that we want to know about all of your organizations. And starting with Alma, what you did a great job of explaining about the work that the organization does. But if you were to think about your clients and what they would say is the best thing about your organization, what would you say? You're muted.
Sorry, I was just saying we don't have clients necessarily. It's a community, right? So for our community, I think it's very important just to know that we have a voice, right? That we are pushing through getting ourselves established within the larger Muslim community, that there are people that are relatable to them. So as a convert to Islam, I came to Islam many years ago, like before 9/11. So I can very much relate with the struggles that you guys were going through during that time. And when you're a convert to the faith and you feel completely alone and isolated, sometimes it's very empowering just to know that there's other people like you. So for somebody like myself who had all those challenges at that time, so at that time we didn't have social media, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have anything. So I remember feeling I'm the only Latina who came to Islam, and that's it. It's just me. There's nobody else. So I know how horrible that feeling is. And I know all the challenges that I went through and others that share in that sentiment. So we hope that our community finds comfort in knowing that there's people advocating for them. There's people looking out for their best interest. There's people trying to ensure that the larger Muslim community knows and understands that we are growing. And not just in Chicago, like what we realize is that we have been growing all over the US and across Latin America during this time. Like when I first came to Islam, you couldn't find a masjid in Latin America. You couldn't find time to pray in Latin America. Or like I said, an imam, a scholar, nothing that was Latino. And all of that has changed drastically in the past 20 years. You know, it's taken time. And I think it's very powerful for our community just to know that they have a community, right? That they have somebody that is sharing their same journey and is there for them as a support.
That's wonderful. Yes, that would be so empowering for any community. So definitely, thank you so much for that. Arshia, we're actually it's been such a great conversation. We have to move along quickly. There's so many questions that we need to get to. I wanted to ask Arshia specifically about how COVID-19 has affected your organization and what you would like our audience to know about your resources.
Sure. When the pandemic hit, we actually co-founded alongside other organizations the National Muslim Task Force on COVID-19. And really the premise was to bring together policy experts, religious leaders, health professionals, public health experts, scientists, and really create like a platform so we can collaborate together. And we held webinars, we produced statements to guide the Muslim community, infographics, so a number of resources. And I would say in terms of how it impacted AMP specifically, so it did impact our mental health first aid program. However, it actually impacted it in a positive way. So American Muslim Health Professionals, we launched the mental health first aid training about a few years ago. And it's an evidence-based program that exposes non-mental health professionals to warning signs and symptoms related to common mental illnesses like eating disorder, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, and it's geared towards parents, teachers, community leaders, imams, and any students who are over the ages of 18. And we've seen an increase of in terms of the stigma that's there for mental illness, but we've also seen the pandemic has just exacerbated the conditions around mental illness. And so this program actually, it provides a good learning opportunity. And in the last few years, we've expanded the program in multiple cities. So what happened during the pandemic is that before we used to do it in person, and the pandemic allowed us to actually convert this program into a virtual platform. And the last thing I'll just mention is that in Chicago right here, we actually received funding from Zakat Chicago. We received it last year, and this year, again, they renewed the grant, recognizing that mental illness is such a huge issue in our communities. And the notion is to keep expanding this program and getting more individuals trained in mental health first aid.
Wonderful, thank you for that. And I want to ask the same question of Juhi. What have been the new challenges to the community that's served by Mohsin, and what new programs or current programs, but that you're re-emphasizing to the families that you serve?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like everyone, this group was hard hit. One of the interesting perspectives I want to share is that a lot of this community was already isolated, was already home, was already unable to access a lot of things at the masjid or in the community. So many families, sad but true, said, not much changed for us. We basically are doing the same thing. But they wanted people to know that this is how it feels. We are barred from entering so many places that now you are barred from entering. And it's not meant to be spiteful, but that was the perspective they were sharing, was this is kind of how we live all the time. You can get up and go into a masjid anytime. You can go in and access these things, but we can't. And so it actually was very eye-opening, I think, for the general community to see it with that perspective. As far as the organization, we had to pivot like everybody else, creating a lot more online support. The amount of rent and medical bills we have paid this past year in zakat money has been exorbitant compared to what we ever thought was needed. People with special needs are already high in the unemployment numbers, but just exasperated by the situation. One of the other things I wanted to mention was people came out for support more because it was online, because they didn't have to physically show up for the support. So it grew the base, if anything. And so that's kind of how Muslim, and we've adapted. I mean, weekend schools went online. We do, there were khutbahs online for everyone. We did a great amount of sign language interpretation and captioning for programs because so many more people were watching at home online. So just increasing access to those programs and hoping to support in any which way. So alhamdulillah, we were able to come through it learning a lot and providing those supports, which we hope can continue even post-pandemic, inshallah.
Thank you, Juhi. I can imagine that this has been a eye-opener. This pandemic has really made us much more empathetic to other people's experiences. My next question, since all of us, this is a Muslim leader, women leader panel. My next question is, as a Muslim female, what advantages do you bring to the non-profit field that may have historically been missing? And I wanted to ask Donna about her experiences.
Well, for me, that's kind of a loaded question because, yeah, as a female to the nonprofit world, you guys have to remember I crossed several different sectors because of my age, because I am African American, because I am Muslim, because I am a woman, because from my generation being someone who accepted Islam, I was one of the few women in the community who was working outside of the Muslim community in a hospital setting. So that's really a broad question for me. I bring a lot of stuff to the table, I think simultaneously. So I'm not really sure how to even answer that. Maybe some of it speaks for itself, or maybe it's too apparent to me. I mean, can you give me another question behind that? Because I don't know which way to hit that one.
Well, no, you actually answered the question. That those groupings or the various roles that we play, as women or as a particular ethnicity or age, all of that can be may count against us, but as leaders, we have to find ways to use those as advantages. So you did answer that question.
Yeah, I think. I think as the sister just said prior to myself, a lot of the things that are opening you guys' eyes now. Well, I'm 61. I was the first group of Black busting kids to an all-white school. I'm I'm practically Palestinian at this point. I might as well be from Ramallah or Batunia, right, Itadel? So, you know, I mean, I don't, you know, my husband and I both are non-Arabic speaking. So you know, you have to work with what you have, and you have to, let me say this for all of us, and not to talk too much, but I can say from life experience, since I was 14 years old, having to be the only one in a room. And a lot of people don't know that about me, and I wasn't asked, and I don't talk about it often because you got to keep moving. You can never allow yourself to be put in a box. And Itadel knows that really well, which is why she's always had my utmost respect. I'm going to throw that in. You cannot allow yourself to be put in a box, because a box can have locks. And that is absolutely what you don't want. And that's what I see everybody's head shaking right here, right now. Yes, that's what makes us different. And that's what makes us, alhamdulillah, thrivers, not survivors. Okay, there's a big difference. So that's what I think.
Thank you for that. That was I'm sure all of us, and especially all the panelists, have experienced great challenges, overcome great challenges, not only for the organization but personal challenges as well. And there's a lot of perseverance that has to happen. Again, we're coming to a close, but I do want to ask this question of Itadel as a woman, Muslim woman leader. What obstacles have you had to overcome in doing this work?
Wow, a lot. I mean, internally we had to face a lot of obstacles. Externally we faced obstacles. And I think knowing that what you're doing is right, knowing that it was hard and a time when no one wanted to hear about a lot of the issues we're trying to face, and now everybody's trying to jump on the bandwagon and try to deal with the issues. I think part of it is it really taught us about ourselves, our identity, our strength, our perseverance. Donna, I love you for saying that we don't want to be put in a box. I never want to be put in a box. The field that we're in is no different than in any other community. It's a pink field, it's a woman field, but we also came as Muslim women and professionalized it by obtaining the 501c3, by having a business plan, by having the staff, by having the budgets, by being at the table and speaking for ourselves. It's not like we're going to be doing all the work and then hand it to, you know, to the men, even though we want them to be with us. We want them to be alongside us. But I think all of us speak to the fact that we are truly strong, intelligent, capable women, and we can do this work, and we need to be recognized for the work that's being done. And so I think part of it is you set a tone and you set a pace and you proved yourself, and the community comes along and it's thanking us. You know, it's appreciating. And so many other organizations are following suit with strong women leadership, like Suzanne, like everybody else. And this is the best part about it, is that you open the door for others. And so if that was the biggest obstacle, I'm proud of the obstacle. Nariman and I did a phenomenal job, and will continue to be there to support and move forward.
Thank you, Itadel. You're absolutely right. Everything you said was right, and taking it as a positive and moving forward, that is the absolutely right approach. I'm going to ask Rohani to close this section by answering for us, which I think all of us need to answer this, but no time. So I'm going to just have Rohani speak for all of us, is how do you take care of yourself while doing this work? In 30 seconds or less.
Okay, so for me, because there's a lot of noise during the day, hanging on to Quran is important. And I love getting up at night for my tahajjud, because that's my conversation with Allah and also my thinking time. And then the noises, there's no noises around because there's too much. And especially during COVID, everybody's home. And so you kind of have to carve your spot. And so that's one of the things that I stay put. I stay reading the Quran to keep me focused, listen a lot, and then tahajjud is important. So that's my 2-bit, how to take care of myself. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. MashaAllah. May good come out of this, inshallah.
Wow, what a wonderful conversation. Thank you to all our esteemed panelists for participating in this discussion and the audience for tuning in. We hope this encourages more women and girls to be involved in nonprofit organizations and has helped you in learning how to do so. We've learned so much from each other. I'm sure there are a lot of other questions you may get directly to you. Hopefully you have given your contact information so our audience can reach out to you. And then now let me hand it back to Suzanne to close the session. Suzanne?
Thank you, everyone. What an amazing, amazing panel, an amazing, a panel of amazing women who are uplifting our community and who are doing the work that is necessary and institutionalizing the work. And I think this is what is so important. What Itadel highlighted on is that we've institutionalized the work so that it will continue, whether we're here or not, whether we're leading our organizations or not. The work will continue, God willing, inshallah. And I, just listening to everyone is just very inspiring. And then that many of our organizations started out in our garages or in our basements or in our family rooms, and we, moved, pushed and cried and worked so hard to make our organizations become a source of comfort for the families and the communities that we serve. So thank you to all of you for attending and for sharing your insights. I want to give really special thank you to Sahira Sadiqi, the chair of Women's Conference Series, Sister Zahra Antar, and Dr. Sabah Khan, the co-chair of Women in Business webinar, Sister Sabina Kadir, the co-chair of Women in Masjid webinar, Sister Asra Ali, Sister Samah Al-Zahdan, co-chairs of the Women in Workplace webinars, Sumaya Rahman, the production and admin, Iqra Azhar, Yusra Kazi, Sana Rashid, Abdullah Mitchell, and all of the staff that work behind the scenes, and everyone and all of our board members. CIOGC is a near and dear organization to my heart, and all of us in the community should feel that CIOGC is our organization, and that only if we work together and come together that we can build the organization and continue sustaining the work that we do, and become really the voice of the Muslim community in the Chicagoland area. And I'm happy that all of us here are together in this space. And now I want to hand it over to Sister Sabina Kadir, who will maybe give some recap, and then also will give us an update of what's coming up next week. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much, Suzanne. Thank you for all of you who have joined us today to celebrate Muslim women leaders and nonprofits. This was our third panel in a series hosted by CIOGC called Muslim Women in Leadership, Faith, Focus, and Fortitude. My name is Sabina, and I'm on the board of the Council of Islamic Organizations with 4 amazingly talented and hardworking women, one of which Suzanne, who's right here before you, but there's others, Sabah Khan, Samal Zan, and Sahira Sadeh. As Suzanne mentioned, Sahira is the backbone of the council. She worked quietly and tirelessly is behind this brilliant series on Chicagoland Muslim women leaders. She's expanded and elevated the stage for all of us women. So I want to really personally thank you, Sahira. This year, for the first time, we have a gender balanced board at the council. We have 5 men and 5 women, thanks to the leadership of our board chair, Irshad Khan. The council has launched a diversity, equity, and inclusion resolution. We call it DEI for short, and it was ratified by our 70-member organization. And through this resolution, we're looking at our member organizations to increase their racial diversity and women representing on governing boards. So far, we have Makkah Center, Islamic Foundation North, and the Islamic Up Center of Naperville that have started to work with us on our DEI initiative. We will continue to reach out to all our member organizations to promote inclusion. I would like to close, I know all of you have done this, but to really thank our distinguished panelists. I have fangirled almost all of you. I've looked up to, admired every single one of you. You know this, some of you are my friends. And especially my personal Shiro, who I love, Tabassum Halim, I love you. We know you panelists, you work hard, and your work and your time is full, but you continue to push yourselves to serve. So we are so grateful to you and your work and the time you've taken out. to join us here at CIGC. May Allah continue to provide barakah in your time and effort. Thank you for all of those who attended. We hope that the panelists have inspired you to work within these nonprofits and increase participation and influence policy. Please keep our panelists, their organization, and the council in your duas. You can follow the work of our council through our social media or our newsletter. And if you want to learn more about our DEI initiative, you can always email me at CIGC, sabina@cigc.org. And please don't forget to join us next Saturday at 2 p.m. as we meet Muslim women leaders in the workplace. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you again, and Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Take care. Enjoy your day.